So as you're writing your essays, you need to be using the rhetorical appeals that we used in our reading in our last unit. So now we're applying those to your writing. And the way to do that, in order to explain that, I'm going to show you some examples on how people have done that. Logos use statistics, data, and facts. So that means you might be choosing evidence that has statistics in it, would be one way to handle that. And another way to do that would be to have logical thought. Explain the logical thought process behind the evidence or behind the ideas that you're presenting. So here we have the first bullet. Participants in their study were assigned to one of several groups. They read either excerpts from works of literary fiction, nonfiction magazine articles, excerpts from works of literary fiction, or nothing at all. Afterward, participants took tests assessing their competence in reading other people. So this is basically describing a study. The describing of the study is a logical thought process. This makes sense to go through this type of thought and this type of study in order to find these outcomes. So that's logical thought process. The second bullet I've highlighted or bolded about 20%. So it goes on to say these students now are required to complete 4 years of math, including Algebra 2. 20% opt out of the class to earn a diploma that isn't accepted by four-year colleges. Under the new rules, Texas will require 3 years of mathematics with students who sign up for Algebra 2 earning a new distinguished diploma. So that is more data, factual information that would qualify as logos. So we move on to our next example, and I've bolded 48%, 44%, 49th among the United States in 2012 to 2013. All of that is an example of statistical evidence. The report also said that 48% of Texas students were deemed ready for college algebra compared with the 44% nationally. Results came even as Texas ranked 49th among U.S. states in 2012 to 2013 on per pupil spending for public schools, according to the National Education Association's annual study on school spending released last December. Now actually it's not marked here, but National Education Association's annual study, that would technically be ethos. So that quote could fall in like a mixed combination of appeals that are used. The next bullet is it's possible for the part of the brain that controls motor skills to wake up, while the part of the brain that governs memory and judgment may remain asleep. That's why some people can perform rote movements such as walking, talking, texting, or even driving while they're sleeping. So that is to explain the process here is to explain why the brain can do certain things while it's technically sleeping. So that there would be a use of logical thinking. Providing immigrants a pathway to citizenship is not just morally the right thing to do, it is also good for our economy. So this is the logical thought process behind this article. It's good for our economy and it's morally correct. Today, 11 million aspiring citizens live in the United States, so that would be logos. So they've got statistical data. The first sentence would be logical thought. They pay taxes and are a large part of our workforce, logical thought. They are consumers fueling demand. Immigrants from the world have made this country thrive. It is time that we embrace our nation's diversity and create a system that allows all immigrants a pathway to citizenship. Technically, that last sentence could maybe fall under pathos. So let's move into our ethos here. How to use ethos. And again, you have to use all three appeals in your essay for full credit. You quote people of authority. So give the author of who said your quotes and say why they're important. Allusions, you allude to historical events or current events. Provide author credibility, so provide your own credibility through the background of your information. So where it's underlined, David Comer Kidd of Emmanuel Castano of the New School for Social Research. I don't even have to read the rest of it. I know that's ethos because they gave me a lot of information of where this guy comes from and what his name is. So I don't even have to read the rest. Dr. Gerald Rosen, Medical Director of the Pediatric Sleep Disorders Program at Children's Hospitals and Clinics of Minnesota. Again, I know where this guy is employed, I know what he does, I know his name, he's a doctor. All of that adds credibility to the text and information that I'm going to quote. Pathos is relatable stories, anecdotes, and imagery, anything that has to do with children, family, pets, those things that really get people, like, you know, their heartstrings going, that would be relevant here for pathos. But how much we stand to lose. So standing to lose something these days, the arrival of a letter, rare as this is a gift in itself. So a gift, something this is a gift that we're going to lose. As a form of communication, it has withstood everything we've thrown at it for 2,000 years, from the deepest emotions. So deepest emotions would be pathos, emotional, cattiest witticisms, from the only written description of the eruption of Vesuvius to the finest pen and ink sketches of the great artists. Digital alternatives, also so open to abuse and prying, really can't compete in matters of the art or the human heart. So art of the human heart, abuse and prying, cattiest witticism, emotion is the only written description of this. All of that is very emotional, trying to pull emotion from the reader. Same with, if you are a mother, you awaken to the sound of your child crying. Even if it's not a loud noise, it will trigger an awakening, he said. That's essentially what's happening with lots of kids with their phones. So comparing it, using a metaphor, we've got a mother and a crying child. If we say it's a trigger for all kids, helps us to put ourselves in that situation. And anything that has children, mother, or kids generally leans towards pathos. So here's where we use more than one appeal. We have more than one appeal available here. We've got demonizing the rich, foundations and charities they have built. So they're like, and before demonizing the rich, so this kind of creating some sympathy for rich people, feeling sorry for them, it's important to consider the foundations and charities they have built and supported. So the green there is pathos. Many of those with money take pride in using it to help others and to create jobs. That would be encouraged rather than discouraged with punitive taxes. That's actually logical thinking, so that could be blue. We move into all this blue stuff. Last year, despite the halting economic recovery, individual charitable contributions increased 3.9% to $228.93 billion. All of that stuff down to the 10%. Statistics. And the sentence directly before it, logical thinking. So you've got pathos and logos, and then the orange part, you don't even have to read it all, but it says Indiana University's Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. That would provide ethos. So you have pathos, logos, and ethos in the orange. Looking at the second one, as Obama's nominee to chair the Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, recently pointed out, we know who she is, that the president's chosen her for a really big job that gives her credibility, so this is ethos. Then all the blue stuff, 1973 to 2005, the top 10% rose by 30%, only 5% to 10%. Obviously, that's all logos because it's all statistical information. And then our last one, the strategy worked. By 2011, local students who took advanced algebra and higher average test scores, fewer graduates needed to enroll. 17 other states followed suit. 75% of U.S. high school students complete Algebra 2 in 2012, up from the less than half in 1986. Logos, logical thinking and statistics. And then it goes into Jennifer Dune of Zinth, policy analyst at the Education Commission of the State's Denver-based research group. And so that would be ethos, because that's providing information that will help us understand why that author and why that person is quotable. So with all of that in mind, remember to have ethos, pathos, and logos involved in your writing.